Good morning and welcome to the Finance Committee's special November 15, 2017 meeting. Beautiful day in New York, as our chair would say. I finally have an opportunity to be sitting on this end of the table and looking out at the sun.
It is gorgeous.
So something good has come as a special meeting. Okay. So anyway, so first up on the agenda, behind tab 2 is Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center.
Hello.
There's John Gardner. We're just starting finance, John. Should we wait for? We'll wait for John.
It's probably John Johnson.
Where is he?
John Gardner's up in Buffalo. John's looking for something. Can you hear us, John Gardner?
For John Johnson Jr., press 1. For Patty Schreck, press 2. To hear the list again, press the pound sign key. To leave the directory, press the stop key. The person you want to reach is not currently available. John Johnson Jr.
It's Patty. You might call back and press 2 this time so that you get Patty.
Have you been able to get communication with John Gardner up in Buffalo?
He's here. He appears to be on mute. John, are you on mute?
He's
John, you're on mute. You have to find the button and hit it. It'll be red. Just press it till it turns green.
For John
Okay,
can you hear me now? All right, John.
to
Good
reach
job.
is not currently available.
Good.
You have reached the office of John
you
Johnson
keep
Jr.
trying her, and then we'll try to patch him in for the board meeting. And
Okay, that's fine. We'll go
set
ahead
up.
with finance.
Transfer him in if I get him. How's that?
Okay, so Matt is up in Albany, and Matt's going to present. It's behind tab 2, the Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. Matt, take it away.
Yes, good morning, everyone. The Finance Committee is being asked to recommend to the full board a 30-year bond issue in an amount not to exceed $465 million on behalf of Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, which is located in Manhattan. There's various projects that we're proposing today, and the first one includes a portion of the construction of an ambulatory care center in Manhattan with bond proceeds of approximately $50 million. This is the David H. Koch Center for Cancer Care at East 74th Street by the FDR Drive, which is a 760,000 square foot building that was primarily financed with taxable bonds and philanthropy. Significant construction has taken place, and the DASNY bond issue will be primarily for a single occupancy 16-bed inpatient unit. The planned population for the 16-bed inpatient unit includes patients requiring inpatient chemotherapy and interventional radiology. In addition to the inpatient beds, there may also be the financing of the build-out of the outpatient practice space. In addition, bond proceeds will be used for a portion of a construction of an ambulatory care center in Uniondale, New York, approximately $83 million here. This portion of the project will provide funds to relocate a regional network outpatient clinical program, which is currently located in Rockville Center, to a freestanding facility on Hempstead Turnpike in Uniondale, New York. Located for the convenience of Long Island residents, Memorial Sloan Kettering Nassau Outpatient Center will provide cancer care in an outpatient setting while minimizing the need to travel to Manhattan. Over half of the project costs will be provided from the hospital's cash flow generated from operations, philanthropy, and intercorporate loans from MSKCC, and again, our portion will be approximately $83 million. Also, bond proceeds will be used for the conversion of their steam heating system at various facilities from a steam-based system to a hot water-based system, providing heating and hot water, including the installation of boilers. Initially, the staff report had this project amount as approximately $110 million. Now they're proposing to use some equity. The bond proceeds for this portion is believed to be approximately $90 million. And as a late add, a recent update, MSKCC has requested that the hospital equipment located at 1275 York Avenue be funded in the amount of approximately $20 million. Again, they're looking at this as a recent update as they want to provide equity for the STEAM project. In addition, the institution is looking at the possibility of refunding DASNY's Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center revenue bonds 2015 Series 1 in the amount of approximately $91.8 million, and the refunding of DASNY's Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center revenue bonds Series 2016-1 in the amount of approximately $106.8 million, depending on the economics. These two bond issues were privately placed bond issues. The security features of the bond issue will include a general obligation of the Center Corporation, as well as guarantees from Sloan Kettering Institute for Cancer Research and SKI Realty, Inc. The expected ratings are AA3, AA-, and AA. Just looking at Memorial Sloan Kettering's financial statements, I mean, this is a multi-billion-dollar corporation with nearly $9.9 billion of assets, just over $4.1 billion in total liabilities, and over $5.7 billion in total net assets. Through September 30th of this year, an operating gain of approximately $205.6 million was recorded on approximately $3.29 billion of operating revenues. Regarding utilization, outpatient visits have increased recently, which is indicative of the shift in the delivery of cancer care to the outpatient setting. The expansion of the hospital's regional network of outpatient sites has been a major contributor to the growth in outpatient visits. And to sum up, this is a AA-rated institution that is world-renowned and is the premier institution for setting the standard of cancer care. Countless discoveries and clinical research have occurred here that have led to innovations in all areas of cancer diagnosis and treatment. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Matt. Questions from anyone?
I had a few, Mr. Chairman.
Please.
And this is a terrific credit. My questions are just to better understand the credit report. They've got total net assets of approximately $5.7 billion and unrestricted net assets of 4.3. So the difference, 1.4 billion, comprises restricted assets. Is that? I mean, and we don't know what those restrictions are. They're just restricted assets.
Right, they'd be temporarily restricted and permanently restricted assets.
Okay, all right. I had a question about MSK Insurance US Inc. So essentially, MSK is a self-insurer, but does so through a separate entity which provides insurance. It is an insurance a company, in effect.
That's correct. That's correct.
And that would be on page, on page 2 in the left column. So MSK, through MSK US, for example, provides terrorism insurance. Is it a terrorism insurance policy, or does MSK Insurance Inc. simply provide for whatever the terrorism impacts are on the school? Are there limitations on that? I assume that's why they set it up that way. That the insurance coverages are limited through this insurance company.
I'm assuming that their policies, Al, but I don't have a lot of detail on the specifics there.
Okay, all right. Just trying to get a sense of what their potential liabilities might be. And then there's a sentence here, I don't understand insurance or reinsurance. The last sentence in the MSK Insurance US Inc. paragraph on page 2 reads, MSK Insurance US Inc. relies on ceded reinsurance to limit its insurance risks. I have no idea what that means.
And from just my general understanding of insurers, they look to have pools of reinsurance so that their liability, their exposure has less of a magnitude, if you will.
Okay.
And again,
Matt, I think It was still like, what does the seated mean? The reinsurance we get, I didn't know what seated really referred to either. Maybe it's just a additional term?
It's an
I
insurance.
think it's just an adjective, just describing.
I think it's an insurance
reinsurance is fine.
term, which indicates that their primary reinsurance, or their primary insurance liability, they have sort of given to somebody else.
Wait, no, the reinsurance I get, the seated
But
term for them.
yeah, and it's sort of the seated is the way in which they give it to somebody.
MSK
Okay.
Insurance US Inc. uses other
Correct.
sources of insurance to
They pass the
cover what
risk
they
off. They
call-
cover their own.
That's exactly right.
Which is common for insurers.
I didn't know that. It is?
And they're so big they can actually set up their own insurance and be self-insured and probably save on their insurance stuff, right?
Matt, again, these questions are just for my better understanding. I am perfectly fine with this credit. So I'll give up the floor now. and stop
Now,
asking
just
dumb
take
questions.
us through the 20 million, that 20 million ad again, or the deduction. Where does the other 20 go?
Yeah, they came with a late ad, and they
Which
explained
is fine.
it by
I just
saying
want to
that
hear it.
they feel it would be appropriate to include some equity in the STEAM project. Just working with some loose numbers, it sounded like originally the STEAM project was $110 million. Potentially, if they put $20 million in equity there, that would free up another $20 million. And they've really just stated it's various hospital equipment at their facility located at 1275 York Avenue. Not a lot of detail. Again, this is, I'm sure, very
Got up there.
expensive oncology treatment equipment. And again, it's approximately $20 million.
Before, may I ask?
Yes, please.
I'm sorry, Matt, you probably explained this and I missed it. We're paying for a portion, I'm sorry, we're not paying. They are funding with these bonds a portion of the construction of an ambulatory care center and $50 million. Did you tell us already about what percentage that is of the total construction? Did you? You must have said it.
It's in the staff report, Al. It's an incredibly large project. Hopefully, it's in the staff report. Yes, here it is.
I missed
The
it.
total basic cost of construction, including the land acquisition, was approximately $1.264 billion. So this is a rather large building. We are financing $50 million of that. And again, it's my understanding that the building is in the process of being built. The steel is up. The exterior is being worked on. And again, our bond proceeds would be to fill out what will eventually be shell space for this 16 inpatient bed oncology cancer bed, if you will.
And is MSK Insurance Limited a U.S. company?
That, Al, I don't know the answer to that.
I don't know that it makes any difference at all. I just wondered. They are separate and apart from MSK Insurance US Inc. And I have no idea what.
But is your question, are they writing policies outside of the United States?
That is my question.
Okay, I can look into that.
And policies for what? If they have a U.S. insurance company, MSK US Inc., what is MSK Insurance Limited writing policies for? Again, Matt, I'm not questioning the quality of the credit at all. I'm just trying to get clear on who they are, what they are. I should have
Does health have to comment on this, or health is?
It's interesting. The borrower is the cancer center, so our statute will not be the standard MICFA statute that we use for hospitals. We do work with the Department of Health, making sure certificate of needs have been approved, contingencies have been met, any notifications have been provided. But as the obligor is technically not the hospital, it's one of those gray areas where we work with the Department of Health, but we don't technically get their recommendation memo, and their role is limited as opposed to a borrowing under the MICFA statute.
Thank you for clarifying that. And I just had one more quick question for you. On the Uniondale facility,
Yes.
I'm sure that's supported by the local community and there's no issues whatsoever regarding its construction?
I have not heard anything. It is under construction now. The timeline is that would be completed in 2019 when the lease expires in Rockville Center, and then they would begin operations at the new facility in 2019.
Okay, I haven't seen anything. I'm assuming the answer is, I would think the community is fully in favor of it. I just was asking that question.
Yeah, they find that
Given
the
the-
population is pretty supportive because then they don't have to
Accelerate
commute to Manhattan.
Okay. Any other questions? Beryl, or who's joining us, or Paul, or John Gardner up in Buffalo? Mr. Gardner, anything?
Sandra has a question.
Hello, Sandra. I didn't see you there, but
That's okay. I'm not a member of the committee. I can hold my questions until the board meeting if you'd prefer.
okay.
That's fine.
Okay, good, okay. So any other questions or concerns on this? Hearing none, can I please get a motion to recommend approval of this, I guess in about 20 minutes or so, at the full special meeting of the board?
Absolutely. So moved.
Second, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Thank you very much, Matt, for that very detailed presentation and for answering our questions. Next up is tab 3 is Fordham University, and Dave, who's also up in Albany, will be presenting that. Dave?
Good morning. The Finance Committee is being asked to recommend to the full board one or more series of tax-exempt and/or taxable fixed and/or variable rate bonds in an amount not to exceed $105 million on behalf of Fordham University. Bond proceeds from the 2017 bonds are expected to be used to advance refund all or a portion of DASNY Series 2011A bonds. The fixed rate Series 2011A bonds have a current par amount outstanding of $88,945,000 and reach final maturity on July 1st of 2036. That final maturity, the final maturity of the refunding bonds will not exceed that final maturity of the bonds that will be refunded. As I mentioned, this is an advance refunding. The 2011 A bonds are callable on July 1st of 2021. And assuming current market conditions, total net present value savings in the range of $8.8 million or 9.9% of the refunded bonds is expected to be achieved through the proposed refunding of the 2011 A bonds. As far as the financing structure, although we're asking the board for maximum flexibility, the plan at this point is a public offering of tax-exempt fixed-rate bonds. And as I mentioned, there'll be no extension of debt, and there'll be level savings. I'll be brief on the credit. I think the last time the board approved a Fordham University transaction was March of last year. But Fordham is currently rated A2 by Moody's and A by S&P. So as far as security, in accordance with DASNY's financing guidelines for independent institutions, Fordham qualifies for an unsecured borrowing with a rating of A3, A- or better. So as such, the loan agreement for the 2017 bonds will be a general unsecured obligation of the university, and no security interest in any revenues or assets of the university is required to be granted by the university under the loan agreement. Demand and enrollment at Fordham remains strong. Applications have increased by 31.5% over 5 years, and full-time equivalent enrollment has reached a 5-year high of 14,243 for the fall of 2016. And management did show that applications for fall of 2017 also increased. Fordham continues to report positive operating results despite significant capital spending in recent years. So while operating margins did begin to thin in fiscal year 2016 and 2017 due to large capital expenditures at the Lincoln Center campus, margins averaged $22.3 million over the last 5 years. And those expenditures, capital expenditures, are really a strategic decision by management to use expendable resources as opposed to incurring additional debt. Similar to many of its peers, Fordham relies heavily on tuition and fee revenue and other student-related revenue. Tuition and fees accounted for 71% of the university's total revenue for fiscal year 2017, but that is somewhat mitigated by the diverse programs that Fordham does offer. And lastly, Fordham's debt service coverage levels for the last 5 years have been strong, averaging 3 to 1 since fiscal year 2013. And essentially, with this refunding transaction, that's only going to have a positive impact, lowering their annual debt service. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Dave, questions? Concerns?
One, again, I think the credit's fine. I was curious to understand. David, do you know, and you may not, what the, say, recent 3-year history is with regard to Fordham's reliance on tuition and fees? Is that number going up or down?
That number has stayed fairly consistent over the past 5 years.
Over 5 years?
Right.
Okay. And the reason I'm asking, David, is that they are heavily reliant. As private colleges and universities struggle to maintain their niche in applications, it has become more and more necessary for universities and colleges to offer more financial aid, which increases the discount rate, which then gives the college or university less money for its to put into the revenue basket. And if it stayed steady state over that 5-year period of time, it begs the question whether or not they're going to be able to increase enrollment if they are trying also to increase the availability of scholarship aid. And that's always been a big issue for me, and I wondered whether or not you talked to them about that. If not, that's fine. I was just curious.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point, Al. I think the one statistic that we really look at that encompasses all of that is, net tuition per FTE. And that number, while it hasn't increased dramatically over 5 years, has gone up incrementally each year. So that's
terrific.
Pretty positive.
And I think, Al, there was an article in today's Times, or yesterday's Times, it was online, talking about private universities in New York and the impact of the governor's program on the financial viability of some of these institutions. I think Fordham and St. John's are in a bit of a different category, but I think we should all take note of that if in fact these bonds we can continue to offer them in the next year or so, that we watch that trend.
It said enrollment decline. Didn't say financial viability.
Well, I think it goes hand in hand with that, don't you?
The numbers were, like, one example was 300 and it went down to 289. Another one was 2 something. I get the point. I can see the point, but I just think it was really...
And I said I think Fordham and St. John's are in a little different category in that. But I think as we go forward, we should just keep an eye on that.
It's clear that the smaller colleges are going to be impacted in a more definable way than institutions like Fordham.
And one could argue also, though, that the refundings are helpful to these colleges, and we're actually giving them a service to keep them viable. So I get it.
Low-cost tax-exempt finance.
So we get it. I just think we just need to... Anyway, any other questions or concerns?
None here, Mr. Chairman.
Carol? John?
This is John Johnson in Watertown. I just would observe that Fordham only has 35% of its students from New York State, so it's not totally dependent on New York, and therefore at risk with the Excelsior scholarship. So at least 65% of its tuition is coming from out of state.
Thank you, John. Right.
And Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to disclose that one of my daughters is attending Fordham.
But you don't get to vote.
Right.
Well, then if she doesn't get an A, this is still at salary. So.
You'll let us know.
Let that be on the record. Then. Very good. I'm joking on that anyway. Maybe no. Hearing no concerns, or can I get a motion to recommend approval of this offering next 20 minutes or so at the full board meeting? Thank you. Second. Thank you.
Second. Right.
All in favor, aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, that carries. Last up, there's a phone ringing somewhere. St. John's, which was a late add to the materials. I'm not sure what it's behind. I guess we're going to put it behind tab 4, and that's going to be Steve is going to present. Steve?
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you, Steve.
The Finance Committee is being asked to recommend to the full board the adoption of a resolution to proceed for fixed and/or variable rate, tax-exempt and/or taxable bond issue with a not-to-exceed amount of $88 million on behalf of St. John's University. The university has been a DASNY client for nearly 50 years and has always met its obligations to DASNY on time and in full. The proposed bond issue will advance refund all or a portion of the university's fixed rate Series 2012A and Series 2012B bonds, which is anticipated to result in net present value savings of approximately $3.2 million or 6.5% of the bonds being refunded. Bond proceeds are also expected to be used to fix out a portion of the university's variable rate Series 2008B bonds, which will result in a more conservative overall debt mix in a relatively low interest rate environment. There will be no extensions of the final maturities of the bonds being refunded. Expected ratings are A3 by Moody's and A- by S&P. Therefore, per DASNY's financing guidelines, the loan agreement for the Series 2017 bonds is expected to be a general unsecured obligation. Security pledged by the university under loan agreements for prior bonds issued by DASNY will remain in place until those bonds are no longer outstanding. There's no new money being proposed and no extension of debt or principal deferral. However, I'd like to provide the board with a brief overview of the university's enrollment, operations, and liquidity. The university is highly dependent on student-related charges, with 71% of 2017 revenues coming from net tuition and 14% of revenues coming from auxiliaries. Enrollment has increased from its 5-year low of 16,459 FTEs in fall 2014 to its 5-year high of 17,235 students last year. Enrollment benefited from the university increasing its tuition discount rate from 35% in 2013 to 41% in 2017. St. John's also changed its enrollment strategies to focus its resources on those areas that produce the greatest yield. This strategy led to its matriculation ratio improving from 10% to 18% over the past 5 years. The university has a history of conservative budgeting and managing its expenses well in relation to its revenues. Operating profits have averaged $26 million over the past 5 years, and the university expects an operating surplus on a budgetary basis of over $20 million in the current fiscal year. The university's liquidity has improved substantially over the past 5 years, primarily due to the sale of a property in Manhattan in 2014, as well as operating profits and investment returns over the past 5 years. Unrestricted net assets increased from $360 million in 2013 to nearly $650 million in 2017. The 2017 viability ratio of 1.2 compares favorably to the 2016 DASNY median of 0.7 and indicates an ability of St. John's University to cover 120% of existing debt with expended net assets. So in conclusion, staff is requesting the board to adopt a resolution to proceed for refunding that will produce significant savings to St. John's University and move it into a more conservative debt mix. And while the staff report asks for maximum flexibility, the expectation here is this will also be a public offering. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Questions? Concerns?
Only one. And thanks, Steve. On page 3, the table 3 at the top, the total non-operating revenue in 2014 came to $165. What is that? $1 million? Yes, and did so because of the sale of property in Manhattan, which is fine. 2013 was 28.5. There was a big sale in 2014. Then in 2015, revenues, non-operating revenues, dropped to a negative number. What one would have expected that number would have gone up every year, as it has every year after that. Was there some issue that you're aware of that caused that to happen?
You're looking at the total non-operating number?
The total non-operating revenue number for 2015. I'm just curious to know what happened in that year.
Yeah, if you look, Al, if you look at Appendix A.
Yes.
Under non-operating activities at the bottom, you can see the majority of the 2016 non-operating revenues is investment losses. And in 2015, it looks like non-operating or investment gains were offset by other. I don't know what the other is. I'd have to go back and look at 2015 to see what those other non-operating items are.
Well, at least the total non-operating revenue rose in the last 2 years, which is precisely what you want to have happen. I just thought there might be some easy explanation for that. Doesn't matter. It doesn't affect my view of the quality of the credit. I was just curious to know what that was about. Anyway, that was my only question. Jim?
Yeah, primarily, their non-operating activities are mainly made up of their investment gains or losses for any given year.
Might have been just a point bad investment.
Yeah, could have been.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Any questions? Paul Barrel, John Gardner, John Johnson, Sandra? Hearing none, can I get a motion to recommend approval of this at the board meeting?
So moved.
Second. Thank you. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. That carries. There's nothing else on the agenda, right, Portia? No late add-ons? No, nothing? Okay, so we're going to look to adjourn this, and I guess move right into the full board meeting.
Can't wait.
Second, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
That carries. Thank you very much.